Hello and welcome. Tonight, Presidential Election Petition Tribunal begins sitting in Abuja with presiding justice assuring all the parties that justice will be served. Supreme Court fixes Tuesday, May 9th to deliver its ruling on appeal filed by former governor of Osun State, Gboyega Oyetola, challenging the election of Ademola Adeleke in the July 2022 governorship election. All Progressives Congress releases zoning arrangements for National Assembly leadership, backs Godswill Akpabio for Senate and Abbas Tajuddin for the House of Representatives. Plus, Russia launches the biggest drone attack on Ukraine since the war began between the two countries.
On business news tonight, Lagos State government set to raise fresh 100 billion naira from the capital market under its 1 trillion naira debts and hybrid instruments issuance program.
On sports news tonight, Lionel Messi and his World Cup winning Argentina scored a double after being named Sportsman and Team of the Year at the Laureus World Sports Awards.
And from the nation's capital, 10th General Assembly of the Africa First Lady's Peace Mission holds in Abuja. Wife of Nigeria's President Aisha Buhari says all hands must be on deck to ensure that the war in Sudan does not escalate.
We begin with the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, which commenced proceedings today with the pre-hearing of 2 petitions challenging the electoral victory of Mr. Bola Tinubu of the All Progressives Congress, APC. The 5-member panel, led by Justice Haruna Samani, heard the pre-hearing sessions for the petitions of the Action People's Party, APP, and that of Mr. Peter Obi of the Labour Party, while Action Alliance, AA, withdrew its petition. Chairman of the panel, Justice Haruna Samani, is however assuring all the parties that they are determined to do justice to the case. Our correspondent Emanuela Ekele reports.
It's the first day of the pre-hearing of the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. Men of the Nigerian police cordon off roads leading to the court as a way of ensuring peaceful proceedings. Inside the court premises, lawyers and journalists who arrived at the court as early as 6:30 a.m. wait for the doors to be opened. Finally, the doors open and they all go in. The courtroom is filled to its capacity with mostly lawyers. The presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, and the governor of Plateau State, Simon Lalong, are part of the dignitaries present to witness the day's proceedings. The mood in this courtroom is one of anticipation. Some of these senior advocates have partnered each other on some cases before now, but today they are on opposing sides. The pre-hearing session begins and the presiding justice, Justice Haruna Samani, who leads a 5-man panel of justices, sought the cooperation of all lawyers in the 5 petitions to enable the court to decide the cases on time. The lawyers leading the legal team agreed to work with the court to ensure prompt determination of the petition and to achieve justice. 3 appeals from the Labour Party, Allied People's Party, and Action Alliance were heard. One of the petitioners, Action Alliance, withdrew its petition before the court, following a petition by its lawyer, Obama Drabuchi. The court subsequently dismissed it, following no objections from the respondents. The court also barred the governor of Plateau State, Simon Lalong, from standing before it as a representative of the president-elect, Bola Tinubu, since he is not a corporation that will need a representative. Mr. Lalong subsequently decided to represent the All Progressive Congress.
We will do all that we ought to do, leaving no stone unturned. And let me assure you that it will be obvious to Nigerians that we did our utmost best, and that election is the worst we have ever had in this country, the worst in Africa, perhaps the worst in the whole of the third world, and that is true.
Counsel to the People's Democratic Party believes the proceedings should be televised to give it more credence.
Public hearing means members of the public should be allowed, and the court got it right today when they saw that the whole the courtroom was filled with only lawyers. They said no, but lawyers should try to create some space so that members of the public will also sit down and witness or watch what is going on. So this case is not just of national dimension alone. It is also of international dimension. The whole world is watching. They want to see how our justice system works.
The counsel to the president-elect, however, declined comments.
Presidential election court will continue its pre-hearing session on Tuesday with a petition from the PDP and the APM. It also adjourned to Wednesday for continuation of hearing of the suit of the Labour Party and the APP. Emanuela Ekele, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, Chairman, House of Representatives Committee on Judiciary, Onyofiok Luke, says no law mandates the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal to conclude sitting before May 29, which is the inauguration date of the next president. Honourable Luke says he is, however, confident that the tribunal is aware of the mood of the country and that Nigerians want justice.
They know the feelings of Nigerians. I'm not talking about emotions. They know that Nigerians want justice. The Nigerian wants the application of the law to the cases before them. The law is not emotions. The law follows the rules. And so they are going to take the totality of the rules, the legislations that we have passed, and then subject those legislations to test. No matter how fast you want the wheel of justice to spin, it has to spin according to laid down rules and principles. Now, there is no legal framework for the determination of election petitions before inauguration. If you are a member of the People's Democratic Party, for instance, and you said we should dispense or swearing in of the president should not happen on May 29, you are invariably saying that the governors who have won election on the platform of your parties should not equally be sworn in on May 29 because there are petitions too against those governors. If you are a member of the Labour Party, for instance, you are saying that on any time the president makes a proclamation for the National Assembly inauguration, you are saying that the National Assembly should not be inaugurated because if you say there should not be an inauguration on May 29, then you are saying that there is nobody who has the authority and power to swear in, to proclaim the National Assembly into existence sometime in June.
Well, he was speaking to our political correspondent, Terry Kumi. For that full interview, do watch Political Paradigm on Tuesday at 12:30 and 11 p.m. Staying with judiciary matters, the Supreme Court has fixed May 9th for judgment in an appeal filed by Mr. Adegboyega Oyetola of the All Progressives Congress against a judgment of the appeal court which upheld the election of Senator Ademola Adeleke as governor of Osun State. The 5-member panel, led by Justice John Okoro, fixed the date after listening to all parties in the suit. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, however, did not file any process in the appeal following the decision of the court and that of the councils to consolidate all appeals into one. Counsel to Mr. Ademola Adeleke, Onyechi Pazu, contends that a voter's register was a requirement to prove overvoting in the present circumstance. While counsel to Mr. Oyetola, Lateef Fagbemi, however, submits that the appeal court relied heavily on the old Electoral Act, specifically that of 2010, to draw its conclusion, and that a voter register was not needed to prove overvoting. While on the issue of forged documents submitted to INEC by Senator Ademola Adeleke, counsel to Mr. Adeleke noted that a judgment had been previously decided in another matter in their favour. To party politics now. The National Working Committee of the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, has adopted Senator Godswill Akpabio from the South-South for office of the President of Senate. Addressing a news conference in Abuja after a meeting of the party's National Working Committee, the National Publicity Secretary, Mr. Felix Morka, also announced Mr. Tajuddin Abbas as the preferred candidate for the office of the Speaker, House of Representatives. On the side sidelines of the meeting, some APC groups protested outside the National Secretariat of the party, demanding the zoning of the office of Speaker to the North Central.
As members of the All Progressives Congress jostle for leadership positions in the 10th National Assembly, the party has announced a zoning template for the position of principal officers.
The zoning agreement reported to the NWC is as follows. Senate President, South-South, Senator Godswill Akpabio. Deputy Senate President, Northwest, Senator Barao Jibril Kano. House of Representatives, Speaker, House of Representatives, Northwest, Honorable Abbas Tajuddin Kaduna. For Deputy Speaker, Southeast, Honorable Ben Carlo Abia.
Just as members of the National Working Committee of the party were meeting, some groups staged a peaceful protest outside the National Secretariat, demanding the zoning of the office of the Speaker to the North Central.
We are all here to call the attention of the APC National Chairman and to congratulate the President-elect in the person of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and to tell him that we, the North Central, have contributed immensely to his success. And we want to still tell him that we are being marginalized as regards the sharing formulas of offices in the National thank you so much. In the National Assembly, the 10th Assembly have not taken the North Central into consideration.
We are here today to make our statement open to the public and to the coming 10th National Assembly and the leadership of the All Progressives Congress that the North Central region of Nigeria deserves the speakership of the coming House of Representatives.
As the federal lawmakers in the 10th National Assembly await their inauguration, the party is hoping to address the grievances that are trailing the zoning arrangements.
And as the race for the next Speaker of the House of Representatives continues to intensify ahead of the inauguration of the 10th National Assembly, the lawmaker representing Bio, Bayo, Shani and Kwaya Kusa Federal Constituency, Borno State, Mr. Batara Liu, has declared his intention to run for the Speakership of the House of Representatives. Speaking at the declaration ceremony in Abuja, Mr. Batara believes he is best suited for the job and he should be given the opportunity to lead the 10th House of Representatives.
Honorable colleagues, all has been said about Betara. I invited all of you here to declare today for the Speakership of the 10th Assembly. I'm supposed to read this my speech, but I think it will take time if I read. All has been said about me. The most important thing today is for me to declare that I'm contesting. Today is our day for members-elect in the 10th Assembly and for our former members of the Parliament. Today, I am here before you as honorable members to declare that I am contesting for the Speakership of the 10th Assembly. And I want to thank my friends, my brothers that travel from far to come and attend this program. I'm happy I'm seeing all faces of our colleagues from the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th Assembly. I'm happy today.
We have more from the National Assembly, but in part two, after the break, 10th General Assembly of the Africa First Lady's Peace Mission holds in Abuja. Wife of Nigeria's President Aisha Buhari says all hands on deck to ensure that the war in Sudan does not escalate. We have that in a moment. Do stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Presidential Election Petition Tribunal begins sitting in Abuja. Presiding justice assures all parties that justice will be served. Supreme Court fixes Tuesday, May 9th, to deliver its ruling on the appeal filed by former Governor of Osun State, Gbóyèga Oyètọ́lá, challenging the election of Ademola Adeleke in the July 2022 governorship election. All Progressives Congress releases its zoning arrangement for the National Assembly leadership, backs Godswill Akpabio for Senate, Abbas Tajuddin for the House of Representatives. And Russia launches the biggest drone attack on Ukraine since the war between the two countries began. The National Assembly is holding an induction program for senators and members-elect of the 10th Assembly. The induction ceremony is intended to educate lawmakers-elect on legislative business. According to the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, this is extremely important as more than 70% of federal lawmakers are coming into the 10th Assembly for the first time. Our correspondent Linda Akigwe has more.
So that he can make...
For the next 2 weeks, these senators and House of Representatives members-elect will be taking part in intense training sessions on the business of the legislature. This induction program, put together by the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies and the National Assembly, is necessary to bridge the legislative knowledge gap for the incoming lawmakers, as over 70% of them are first-time lawmakers. The first action these legislators will execute after taking their oath of office will be to elect the principal officers of the Senate and the House of Representatives. Already, this momentous decision, which will shape the running of the federal legislature, is being hotly debated across the country, with lawmakers and various interest groups weighing in on which person should lead the assembly and from which region.
I think this is a decision that the APC, the ruling government, should make. But it will be very precarious for them if they don't make that decision quickly, because if they make that decision so late, people would have firm up in their decision to support any of the candidates.
It's been touted and stated that the deputy speakership position will come to the southeast. If that is the truth, then being the only woman in the race for speakership of the House of Representatives and having toured and canvassed members for this support, it will only be ideal that I be considered and given a right of first refusal.
We are only awaiting the final decision of the National Working Committee of our great party, which I believe will come out very soon. And when that comes out, then we'll know what position is going to which region and what position is going to the other.
However, some federal legislators insist that lawmakers themselves should have the sole prerogative of choosing who will lead them in the 10th Assembly.
I think the dividing line clearly is whether we want an independent National Assembly or we want an assembly that's controlled by the presidency. For me, that is the dividing line.
Allows the legislature to do their own to rules of provision of the Constitution, vis-a-vis allows the executive to do their own. I think when we respect the Constitution, when we respect the tenet of democracy, we'll get it right.
After the president-elect, Mr. Bola Tinubu, is sworn in as president, he will give a proclamation for the termination of a 9th Assembly and commencement of a 10th Assembly on a date most likely in June, which will be the day the federal lawmakers will elect who will lead them. Linda Akigwe, Channels Television News.
Well, it's now time to head to our Abuja studios for more stories. Terry is waiting. Hi, Terry. It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you, Millicent, as well. Love the red. Now, against the backdrop of the crisis in Sudan, all hands must be on deck to ensure that the problems are not allowed to escalate. This is according to the wife of the president, Mrs. Aisha Buhari, at the 10th General Assembly of the Africa First Ladies Peace Mission at the State House. Mrs. Buhari, who expressed concern over the huge humanitarian crisis thrown up by the war, which has largely affected women and children, states that Africa First Lady's Peace Mission is open to engaging with all relevant bodies to advance greater strategies. Our State House correspondent Gloria Omezioke reports.
Africa's First Ladies, led by the wife of Nigeria's President, Mrs. Aisha Buhari, converge on the State House for the 10th General Assembly of the Africa First Ladies Peace Mission. The war in Sudan and its attendant consequences dominate conversations as the First Ladies take turns to outline possible solutions in their remarks.
There is need, Your Excellencies, to establish and strengthen conflict management structures regionally, nationally, locally, at all those levels, and provide capacity building of members of such structures on laws and policies that promote gender equality, peace building, conflict analysis, mediation, negotiation, reconciliation, and women empowerment.
If we bring women on board and provide what is needed, I believe the conflicts across our region will come to an end. There are some signals that people will see at the beginning and that we don't pay any attention to. By the time you ignore those signals, we are involved in full-blown crisis.
Wife of Nigeria's President, Mrs. Aisha Buhari, who doubles as the 9th president of the organization, boasts about fulfilling her promise to construct an official headquarters for the peace mission in Abuja, while also illuminating the need for constructive engagements in Sudan.
Another humanitarian window has been exposed with the sudden eruption of violence in Sudan. All hands must be on deck to ensure that the problems are not allowed to escalate. Peace Mission is open to engaging with all relevant bodies in this regard.
To rekindle commitments towards the promotion of peace and conflict resolution, there is an official signing of a memorandum of understanding between the Peace Mission and the African Union. The Africa First Ladies, otherwise known as the Agents of Change, are apparently doubling down on their efforts and contributions towards achieving peace, cohesion and security on the continent, leveraging on several strategies and contributions to deviate away from being mere political tourists to actually advancing greater participation and inclusion on the continent. From the Presidential Villa, Gloria Omezioke, Channels Television News.
Now, privatization of the power sector is needed to enable serious-minded private sector players to invest in the provision of public power. These were the words of Nigeria's Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, on the sidelines of the National Council on Privatization meeting, where Transcorp Power Limited was presented with a discharge certificate, signifying that the company has fulfilled the covenant stipulated in the post-acquisition plan by the Bureau of Public Enterprises and will no longer be subject to any post-privatization supervision. Our State House correspondent Kayla Megwa reports.
It is a day of celebration for Transcorp Power Limited, a leading gas-fired power generation company with an installed capacity of 722 megawatts. This ceremony at the office of the Vice President at the State House in Abuja is affirmation that the company has met the covenants stipulated in the post-acquisition plan. Privatization of the nation's power sector and the grave need for serious-minded investors in the sector is underscored by the Vice President at this ceremony.
The power needs of our country are grave, and we strongly believe that the right approach is the privatization of the power sector to enable serious-minded private sector players to invest in power, the provision of public power, and to ensure that they are efficient while they make profit at the same time.
Transcorp Power Limited and the Bureau for Public Enterprise signed the agreement, and the certificate is presented to the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, who in turn presents it to the Chairman of Transcorp Power Limited, Mr. Tony Elumelu. After that, the team from Transcorp Power Limited are excused. There is no going back on Nigeria's industrialization, and Mr. Tony Elumelu says his commitment to powering it is not waning.
We believe in improved access to electricity because we know that improved access to electricity means powering our schools, helping hospitals to function very well, helping businesses to grow and create employment, and most importantly, helping to industrialize Nigeria. And so because of this, we invest in the power sector, and we'll continue to even invest more in that sector, because in line with our philosophy of Afri-capitalism, we cannot develop Nigeria, Africa, without improvement in our access to electricity.
This event is in fulfillment of the federal government's promise made to privatized enterprises who fully implement the agreed key performance benchmarks contained in the post-acquisition plan and the performance agreement. From the State House in Abuja, Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
When the news at 10 returns, Lagos State government set to raise fresh 100 billion naira from the capital market under its 1 trillion naira debt and higher interest issuance program. That's on business news. Please stay with us. And welcome back to the news at 10. The Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, says the second Niger Bridge will be open to vehicular traffic before the end of the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari later this month. Speaking at a media briefing in Abuja to present the scorecard of his ministry in the past 8 years, the former governor of Lagos says over 380,000 jobs were created in the course of constructing over 9,000 kilometers of roads and building over 2,000 housing units across the country.
There's something that is not reported in this slide, and it is important to report it. The Federal Land Registry, around which we operate, each state has its own, FCT has its own. The Federal Land Registry that we met was the old file system. I am able to say that with the support of this team, we have fully digitized that land registry now. That process has required us to scan 50,000 plus files. Let me repeat that number. 50,000 plus files. We scanned them. And that is cumulatively, when I checked, 2,478,400 pages of documents was what we scanned.
And that's all from the nation's capital. The news at 10 continues from Lagos with Millicent.
Thank you, Terry. To some company news now. Hero Lager, a product of International Breweries PLC, has launched the People's Hero Initiative under the Hero Lager's Uhurudia campaign. The Igbo word Uhurudia, translated to mean the real worth within, seeks to recognize and reward young, fast-rising artists from the southeast and south-south of Nigeria on their journey to relevance. This time around, Hero Lager is focusing on the music industry, which, according to the company, is currently the biggest creative expression in Nigeria.
Urudia, we recognize your worth. That is what Hero Lager is telling these gathering of creative artists in Lagos, southwest Nigeria.
It just means something that has value. There's something.
Hero Lager, a product of International Breweries PLC, has launched the People's Heroes Initiative, an offshoot of Hero Lager's Urudia campaign to support young, fast-rising artists on their journey to relevance. As a brand with roots in the Igbo tradition, the event kicks off with the presentation of kola nuts as a sign of respect. But Hero Lager is doing something different, and the choice to converge on Lagos, the company says, is a strategic one.
What we've done is to come here to learn, to pick up pointers from from the excellence that is currently ongoing in the Afrobeat space in Lagos, and then cascade that into the talents that we have in the East.
It's now time for Hero Lager to confer on the recipients the Urudia symbol of worthiness.
The fact that I'm now associated with the Hero brand as an artist, it has scaled me up, and it has actually helped in validation and actually putting a stamp on my artistry. It's a lot.
Hero Lager sees the worth in these budding music talents, and that's why they're going to great lengths to support them.
They are heroes. Like when I say they are heroes in their own right, they've earned it. So when we come in, it's to enable them to get to that next level. So the initiatives are largely very successful. They are fail-proof.
It's a legacy platform, it's a legacy initiative, and I do not believe that this initiative has limits. Music, we've started today and will continue to push that, but there are also tons of other talents that are accessible, available in this country beyond the music space, and we believe we can create a chain between the mentors and the mentees to constantly ensure that we churn out talents from different creative space in Nigeria.
Veteran Nollywood actor and Hirolaga brand ambassador says the initiative will create a ripple effect that will transform the growth of the entertainment industry.
They are doing it in the music, in the entertainment industry now. They have done it in sports. They have done it in training of apprentices. When we did Igba Boy, they have been putting their hands into a lot of things that will develop our youth.
And the message here by the brewing companies for these creatives to accept the values as heroes themselves and project them to others.
It's now time for business news. Here's Anne Waldo.
Thank you, Millicent. Hello and welcome to Business News. The Lagos state government has announced fresh plans to raise 100 billion naira from the capital market under its 1 trillion naira debt and hybrid instruments issuance program. The issuance program, which is part of the state's government's efforts to finance priority projects and boost economic growth, is a fixed-rate senior unsecured bond with a tenor of 10 years and a pricing range of 14.87% and 15.25%. According to the state government, proceeds from the bond issuance will be used to finance priority infrastructure projects. The issuance, which is being signed, an AA long-term rating with a stable outlook by Augusto & Co. and GCR, is scheduled to close on Friday this week. President Muhammadu Buhari has directed the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission to take over the supervision of all crude oil export terminals in the country. The presidential directive is contained in a letter dated May 3rd this year with reference number SHCOS 24A78, which quotes that the exercise of any regulatory role by the NUPCR and the NMDPRA or any existing crude oil export terminal established prior to the effective date of the PIA should cease immediately. It also explains that NUPRC is the only regulatory entity mandated to check and regulate the activities of all existing crude oil export terminals in Nigeria in compliance with Section 7 of the PIA 2021 Act. The President has also ordered the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources to ensure immediate compliance and report back within 14 days that the resolution stipulated are being adhered to by these agencies. Let's head to the stock market. It began the second trading week in the month of May in the green, with more than 62 billion naira gain at the close of trade today. John Mekwa has the details.
Thank you so much. Welcome to the stock market report. Well, ending last week on a positive note, the NGX has ended the first trading session of the week in green as the all-share index jumped 0.22% at 52,579.52, and the market cap more than 28 trillion naira. And this, of course, has left the bull still in charge. The banking counter continues to dictate the sentiments in the market as three of the figures top the trades today, beginning with Accessco, 167 million in volume of trade, followed by FBN Holdings, 91 million, and then we have UBA, 78 million. The big guys are talking. Now, let's take a look at the sectors, and as we expect, the banking counter is in the green, more than 0.5%, 0.62%. Oil and gas follows, 0.35%, and not forgetting right here, consumers goods. I mean, it's a green market looking good at this time. 29 stocks posted gains, while 17 declined. A positive market breadth for a Monday. A good way to start. That's the stock market report. I'm John Mekwa. Back to you, Anne.
Thank you for watching Business News Tonight. I'm Anne Mwawado. The rest of the news at 10 continues now with Millicent.
Thank you, Anne. Coming up next on the news at 10, Russia launches biggest drone attack on Ukraine since the war between the two countries began. We have that on our international news around the world in 5. Air raid sirens have sounded across Ukraine after Russia launched a fresh wave of drone and missile strikes. Explosions were heard overnight in the capital, Kyiv, where the mayor said 5 people have been injured in the biggest kamikaze drone attack so far. There's Simon Pussy with more on this and other international stories and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Federal authorities are investigating whether the gunman who killed 8 people, including children, at a Dallas shopping mall had far-right links. The attacker, who was shot dead at the scene by a police officer, has been named as Mauricio Garcia, aged 33. Investigators are reviewing social media to look into his ideology. During the attack, he wore a clothing patch with the letters RWDS on, which stands for Right Wing Death Squad. Witnesses described scenes of panic and horror when the gunman got out of his car in a mall parking lot and began firing on shoppers.
When we received the call, we activated our active attack integrated response. Our rescue task force teams found 7 deceased individuals on scene. We transported 9 individuals to the hospital, to area trauma facilities. Of those that we transported, 2 have since died. 3 are in critical surgery, and 4 are stable.
At 3:36, our officer was at Allen Premium Outlets on an unrelated call. He heard gunshots, located the gunshot, located the shooter, neutralized the shooter, neutralized the threat. We believe at this point that the shooter acted alone.
Following the shooting, US President Joe Biden once again called on Congress to pass gun control bills. The Democratic president renewed calls for Congress to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines, as well as to enact universal background checks and end immunity for gun manufacturers.
While we're still waiting for more information regarding the shooter, his motive, the weapons he used, the guns, the magazines, the weapons, the modifications that apparently have taken place to those weapons that are involved here, I don't need to wait another minute, let alone an hour, to take common sense steps that will save the lives in the future and to urge my colleagues in the House and Senate to act. We can ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines in this country once again.
5 people have been wounded in a Russian drone attack on an apartment building in Kyiv. Russia launched its biggest wave of drone strikes on Ukraine for months. Kyiv's mayor, Vitaly Klitschko, said Russia had fired 60 Iranian-made kamikaze drones at Ukrainian targets, including 36 at the capital, all of which had been shot down, although debris hit apartments and other buildings. Rescuers are searching for survivors from an overcrowded tourist boat that capsized in South India, leaving at least 22 people dead. Police said the exact number of people on the boat that capsized in an estuary near the town of Tanur has yet to be confirmed. According to local media, police initially estimated that around 40 people, including children, were on board the boat, with most of the passengers believed to be domestic tourists. The far-right Republican Party has finished first in an election to choose the members of the body tasked with drawing up Chile's new constitution. The Republican Party won 22 out of 51 seats, with right-wing parties winning another 11. The Constitutional Assembly is to come up with a new constitution to replace the one brought in during the military rule of General Augusto Pinochet. A draft by a previous assembly was rejected in a referendum last year. And people across the UK are being urged to join volunteering projects to mark the final day of the coronation weekend. King Charles's grandchildren have been helping a lending hand. Here, Prince Louis, aided by his father, Prince William, using a digger. Prince George lending a helping hand with an electric screwdriver. And Charlotte giving archery a go. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister joined volunteers at a community centre in Hertfordshire.
Well, it's great to be here at Millen Lunch Club in Hertfordshire, joining volunteers. Now, this is part of the big help out. Tens of thousands of events taking place across the country just like this, respecting and reflecting His Majesty's long tradition of service. And it's community spirit like this that binds our country together. It's fantastic to be a part of it here today and help out myself.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thanks, Simon. Let's switch to sports now. Here's Kelly Agiga.
Well, thanks, Millicent. In the world of sports, Lionel Messi and his World Cup winning Argentina have scored a double by being named Sportsman and Team of the Year at the Laureus World Sports Awards. Now, Messi captained Argentina, scoring 7 times and winning the Golden Ball as his country won the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar in December last year. Meanwhile, Sportswoman of the Year went to Jamaican sprinter Shirley Ann Fraser-Price. Well, Fraser-Price won the women's 100 meters world title at the World Athletics Championships in Oregon in July last year, becoming the first person to win 5 golds in an individual track event at the championships. Fraser-Price's 100 meters gold came 13 years after her first, and the 36-year-old has more world sprint titles than any other athlete. The English Premier League, Super Eagles forward Taiwo Awoniyi scored twice as Nottingham Forest moved out of the relegation zone with a 4-3 victory over bottom club Southampton at the City Ground. In the other encounter, Everton produced a superb display of counter-attacking football to climb out of the relegation zone with a stunning victory that dented Brighton's European ambitions. Meanwhile, Leicester City's chances of survival suffered a blow as they collapsed to a 5-3 defeat at Fulham at Craven Cottage. Still tracking football, manager Pep Guardiola has stressed that Manchester City are not out for revenge against Real Madrid in the Champions League. Real Madrid got the better of Manchester City in last season's Titanic semi-final bout, winning 6-5 on aggregate after scoring 2 late goals in a remarkable second leg. Guardiola, however, says that desire will be the driver in Tuesday's first leg clash at the Santiago Bernabeu as they aim to reach the final for the first time since their loss to Chelsea in 2021. And finally, Real Madrid coach is also reacting about that crucial encounter. Carlo Ancelotti, he says his side must stop Manchester City's whole team and not just striker Erling Haaland when they meet in the Champions League semi-finals on Tuesday. The reigning champions host Manchester City in the first leg, who are spearheaded by Norwegian hitman Haaland, who boasts 51 goals in 45 games across all competitions. And that's Sports News tonight. Thanks indeed for watching. I am Kelly Agiga. It's back to Millicent.
Thanks, Kelly. And the main news again. Presidential Election Petition Tribunal today began sitting in Abuja. The Action Alliance withdrew its petition against the president-elect, paving way for Justice Haruna Semani to strike out the first petition. Also today, the Supreme Court fixed Tuesday, May 9th, to deliver a ruling on the appeal filed by former Governor of Osun State, Gboyega Oyetola, challenging the election of Ademola Adeleke in the July 2022 governorship election. We also told you that the All Progressives Congress has released its zoning arrangement for the National Assembly leadership. The party is backing Godswill Akpabio for Senate and Abbas Tajuddin for House of Representatives. And that's your news at 10 to 9. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Have a good night and stay safe.